Welcome to the How to Talk to Girls podcast. This is your host, Trip Kramer from tripadvice.com. And today I have an episode coming from the archives. That's right. This is coming from the archives. I was interviewed a couple years ago on the idea of transitioning into a relationship. And I really want to share this with you because I go over some really cool stuff that I think is going to help you as you continue to date and move forward and be able to get a girlfriend, get into a relationship. So I give some great advice here, and it's not on my podcast, and you got to hear it because it's really awesome, and I think it's going to help you a lot. Just some updates here. If you have yet to get my 7 deadly text messages that make her want you, then I want you to go to www.tripadvice.com/text-girls. What I have for you is basically the 7 most common scenarios where you're going to find that you're going to have to text a girl. And this is something that is, I know, a big problem for a lot of guys. They don't know how to text girls. And so I have this for free, a video giving you the 7 common scenarios and the exact words to copy and paste and just send off to the girls that you're texting or talking to. And if you're not texting or talking to any girls, well, you sure will be doing that soon if you're listening to any of this advice. So go and get it, tripadvice.com/text-girls. It's pretty new. I think it's maybe only a couple months old at this point, and I've been talking a lot about it on my YouTube channel, but I don't think I mentioned it on my podcast. So go get that if you want to copy and paste the exact text messages to send a girl that get her to meet up with you. There are 7 deadly text messages that make her want you and that she cannot resist. So go ahead and get that. For now, here is my episode on transitioning into a relationship. Check it out.
This week, we're going to talk about how to transition into a real relationship and get beyond that initial dating phase. So, Trip, let's say a client of yours has been on several dates and things are going really, really well. How can that client of yours know if the girl's really, really right for him or not?
There's a couple things. I mean, at the end of the day, it really boils down to these 3 ideas that I've come up with when it comes to compatibility with somebody, with someone that could be your girlfriend or eventually a wife or whatever it is. It's about values. It's about sexual compatibility and just overall interests and fun. Okay. So values is, do you guys have the same belief system on things, right? So do you look at the world in the same way? Do you see eye to eye in a lot of things? And that can be on a million different topics, so like we were talking about in the past weeks, like, religion and politics, just overall treating other people, in terms of being successful, in terms of your goals and your passions. Are you guys aligned in that way? So that would make up the values system, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, just to interject on that.
Yeah, please.
Do you ever have clients who are like, oh, but what about the whole opposites attract thing?
Okay, that's a great question. Yes, I have gotten that before. In terms of opposites attract, I don't like to call it opposites. It's more like complementary. Mm-hmm. Okay. So it's more like you have something about you that's different than the other person, but you two connect like a puzzle piece, right? You two complement each other in a certain way. Mm-hmm. So, for example, maybe one person, is it like, here's a simple one, right? Someone's a little more energetic in the morning, right? And the other person kind of likes to sleep in, right? Mm-hmm. Something so simple like that. But it's kind of nice to have, it could be nice to have a compliment like that, because maybe that other person, will get that other person out of bed in the morning, and it's nice to have that person who kind of pushes you like that, right? So, but the thing is, if you have too many of those that are opposite, it's not going to attract. It's going to very much push you to way further away. So, it all depends on what those 2 things are that's opposite. But in terms of values, absolutely everything has to be the same.
Okay.
Most things, at least, or else you're going to, and that's kind of what happens a lot of the times in relationships. People break up because they don't start to see eye to eye on the same things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, okay, so then there's values, and then there's sexual compatibility, right? So if the sex is bad, then I mean you're pretty much doomed. It's going to end eventually.
Or if someone prefers to have rough sex and you don't always want to have to keep that up. Yeah.
Right. That's again where opposites will not attract, you know. You want to, see eye to eye on that too, because I mean, yeah, if one person wants it one way all the time and another person doesn't, and there's kind of, people like the things that they like in the
Yeah,
bedroom, so that's eventually it will end. I mean, someone's not going to be sexually satisfied. They're going to get out of the relationship.
for sure. Yeah. And that actually just happened. I was dating a guy and we had been on, I don't know, 5 dates maybe. And when it started moving into that territory, it got weird because he cannot stay excited, this particular guy, unless he's slapped.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
And,
yeah.
it wasn't working out for me. So I was like, wow, this is a lot of work, and so it just became comical. And all I did was start laughing, and then the whole thing ended.
Right. Hey, and you know what? Some girls are totally into that, and that will work.
Well, yeah, that's
You
the thing.
know,
But he said his last relationship broke up because it got boring after a while. Like she was cool and she was into it for the first month or two. And then she didn't want to do that anymore. And she wanted a little bit of this or a little bit of that. And he's like, that was boring to me. And I was like, all right, well, we're not compatible
right.
because women's needs change by the hour.
Hmm.
So I might be in a wild mood tonight, and then tomorrow morning I may want to be very cuddly and, be feeling safe and taken care of. So it's, like you were saying, it's an energetic thing. And so if somebody has their wants and they're just in one specific area all the time, that's not compatible.
Right. Exactly. And with that, you're going to want to be able to compromise. And of course, if you're with your woman, she's going to want, you know, it's going to change. She'll want the cuddly times and she'll want the hard, rough sex sometimes, but you should still, if the woman isn't satisfying you sexually, at least most of the time, it's not going to work out,
Yeah,
you know?
for sure.
So yeah, the other part is really just, the fun part about it, right? So like, does she make you laugh? Do you have a fun time with her? I mean, obviously, if you're not having a fun time with her, you'll probably end up not going on many dates with the person. But then again, I know a lot of guys who end up settling with a girl because she's just pretty. And so they're like, oh, okay, well, she's really hot and the sex is great. But you know what? Eventually, what's going to happen is she's not going to be so pretty anymore because people get older. And if you can't connect with them on that, fun level, and you guys have the same interests and you like to do the same things together and the same activities and just that stuff, that's really important because if you don't have that, you're going to get bored in that way. And then eventually the relationship will end just like that.
So, when is the right time for a guy to ask a girl if she wants to be in a relationship? Or is that supposed to be something that the girl should pressure him about?
No, I mean, I think most women, I believe, look to the guy to make that move. You know, I think sometimes the girl speak up, but I think there's probably like an average. I'd say around like if you've been dating a person for like 3 months,
The 3 month
that's
rule.
the
Yeah.
3 month rule. I think that's probably a good time. You know what I mean? I mean, listen again, and that's up to you. If you find, I mean, if you're looking for a girlfriend and all those things I just mentioned and that we've been talking about, if all those things hit you on the right levels, same values, great sex, similar interests, and you have fun with the person, at around 3 months, that's a great time to do it. You've gotten to know each other. Again, I say 3 months, this means that you've been consistently dating. This doesn't mean you've been going on one date per month, so this is like saying that you've been going on at least a few dates every week for about 3 months. At that point, that's probably a really good average to go for it.
Yeah. Because I think, especially for women, if we're sleeping with someone like that and we're seeing someone that frequently, then it almost feels like you're in an exclusive relationship anyway.
Yeah.
So it's like you want to have that discussion so that you make sure that you're safe sexually, so that you know that that guy's not also seeing several other women.
Right. And you know what? I mean, I really hate to generalize, but from what I've seen, if you're consistently having sex with a girl, you can be, and you're consistently dating her as well. You can almost be sure she's not seeing anybody else. Most of the time, women are really, because that's just kind of, in your nature, women, they kind of pair bond quicker. For evolutionary reasons, they stick with a guy.
Yeah.
So they're usually, you can definitely assume that she's, wants to be with you. So asking her to be in a relationship will not be a hard thing to do.
So, all right. So you wait a couple of months, and then how should the guy actually ask her?
Oh man, this is
How
a
do you
cool.
broach that topic? Yeah.
It's, you do it in I mean, you can do it romantically, if you want. I'm not a very, cheesy kind of guy, so I don't like doing things like, will you wear my promise ring? You know what
Here's my jacket.
Yeah,
It's my varsity jacket.
here's my leather jacket. Um, but I mean, when you guys are having a nice moment together, and you guys are just, doing whatever, I mean, even after like a good session of sex, afterwards you can say something like, hey, listen, I just want to let you know, I'm not seeing anybody right now except for you, and I don't really plan on it, So just saying something like that,
Yeah.
it's going to start opening up the conversation. Chances are, again, if things are going well, she's going to be saying the same thing. And then you can say something like, you know what? And I don't want to see anyone else. I'd rather just to exclusively see you,
Yeah.
and that's just a really cool, chill way of being like, hey, like, I want to be your boyfriend. I want you to be my girlfriend.
I've had guys do it in a sneaky way where we'll be out somewhere at a social function and he'll introduce me as his girlfriend.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And
What do you
then
think about that?
I think it's kind of cute because
Yeah,
then
it's not bad.
it's like a surprising kind of thing, and it's also a good way for the guy to gauge how she reacts to that. If she's comfortable with that and kind of smiles and then brings it's a chance to kind of like ease into the discussion, because then later on she could be like, you introduced me as your girlfriend, and
Right.
you can almost make it playful and fun, and he'll be like, well, yeah, I guess we're kind of there,
Right.
so if you want to do it that way, I think that would be effective because it's cute. As long as
It
it's not
is.
too soon.
Yeah, no, it is. I think that is a good way. And you know what? And this is a good tip for guys in terms of, being very dominant and being very masculine is, if you do pull a move like that, maybe by accident, you're like, oh my God, I just called her my girlfriend. You know, I wouldn't, when you guys, because eventually you're going to have that conversation. She might bring it up to you or something like, hey, so you call me your girlfriend, own up to it. Don't be scared about it. Don't be like, was that okay? Is that okay? Like, I thought it was okay. Don't be so unsure of yourself. Be like, yeah, I'll be honest. I consider you my girlfriend. I mean, I'm not
Yeah.
seeing anybody else, and we've been
You're
spending a
my
lot of time
woman.
together.
You're my
You're,
woman.
you're mine. And you can even say that. You can joke around. You're mine. You know what I mean? Just like be playful about it. But,
Yeah.
you know,
So do you find that your clients, they get worried about losing their friends or changing as a person once they're in a committed relationship? I know so many guys who are scared about commitment, especially in LA.
yeah, especially in LA, just because it's just a very difficult place. But yeah, I hear from a lot of guys. Well, it's funny, the commitment thing for a lot of guys, it gets scarier as the relationship progresses, not so much, before it happens, because you're kind of in that love mode where like the
Yeah.
serotonin in your brain is just dripping and you're not thinking about anything because you're just like really into that one girl. But for guys that are commitment phobic, I mean, at the end of the day, it's up to you how you're going to, treat the way you live, right? So you might be scared of like, well, then I'll never be able to like hang out with my friends again. She's gonna want all my time. Well, then you should show the girl that you're with what your values are, right? So that you value friendship and you value alone time if that's something you value, and the things that you really like. And you know what? You might not find that out before your first relationship or even your second relationship. You might find out a lot of that stuff on your fourth relationship, and that's okay. You're going to learn more about you, but you should just really take note on the things that you want out of a relationship and how you want to have a relationship if you do want one, and take note of those things and be sure to try to communicate those things to the girl you're dating. So it's not going to be a surprise when you're like, hey, it's Friday night. I feel like going out with my friends tonight because I haven't seen them in a while, you know?
Yeah.
So it's really, and this goes even deeper into relationship advice, but the biggest tip for anyone really when it comes to relationship advice, and you guys should know this before you get into one, is that idea of communication. The more you can honestly and effectively communicate with your partner, the easier the relationship is going to be.
Yes. And to have healthy boundaries, to not lose yourself in the other person. Like,
Right.
continue to be who you are because that's who they fell in love with.
Right, exactly. And yeah, listen, everyone's going to change and you're going to change and we all do that because we're human. And I wasn't the same person I was 5 years ago and I won't be 5 years from now,
Well, right. But
you know?
yeah, but you know, the kind of guy who becomes super needy once he's actually committed, you know, because he's vulnerable. So now he's changed significantly. That's the kind of thing that I've seen happen and it's a bummer.
Right. And why that happens, I believe, is because it's actually now that it comes to the fear of non-commitment, right? It comes to the fear of losing the girl. And so it's a very hard balance to have, but you got to try to understand that, you're going to have relationships, some are going to work out, some are not. But just remember that in order to not be that needy guy that you're talking about right now, is you have to go into everything understanding that, you know, there's always going to be someone else that you could have if it doesn't work out with this one, I hate to go really dark right now, but if something, happens to someone you're dating, like they just pass away, right? Unfortunately, don't say to yourself that you wouldn't be able to find someone else because you would. And that has no difference between if she breaks up with you or if she just disappears one day. So the point is this, is no matter what happens with the girl you're with, as much as you're falling in love with her and this is the girl for you and this is the one, just remember there is always someone else out there that can be for you if it doesn't work out with that one girl that you're with now.
Change is the only thing that's constant.
That's
So
good.
so one final question for you. How can the guys out there know if she's the one?
So this is just really going back to a lot of things that we said, right? So if you have the same values, if you have the sexual compatibility, if you're having all that fun, and if all of those things stay on a consistent basis, and you're not settling, right? Because that's a big thing too, is like you should not be settling with a girl. You should be absolutely, be picky, be, have the girl that you want and have your cake and eat it too, because that's what's going to make a long lasting relationship. That's going to be the one right there. The girl that is able to fulfill all those needs that you have while you're able to fulfill hers. Right. So, you know, it's different for everybody. I mean, everyone has different moments when they realize that they really love a girl and they want to spend the rest of their life with them or they want to get into a relationship, but that's again, that's also going back to the idea of you don't want to do it too soon, because a lot of guys and girls will fall in love in like 2 weeks, like, oh my God, they're perfect. And then like a month later, they're like, wait, no, they're not. Right.
Yeah.
And that's why you wait like 3 months. You wait so you can have as many experiences as you can with this person, right? Because the dates, they're not superficial by any means, but they're just part of it, right? So that girl that you're dating, that you go out to dinner with, is not going to be the same person who, reacts to something that happens with one of her friends or, on another type of date or, when you guys travel together. Like there's all different sides of a person.
Ooh, travel's a big one.
Yeah, travel's a huge one. All these, so you want to experience as much as you can with someone. Of course, you can't do everything, but you do as much as you can. And if you find that you really like this person or you love this person through all these different experiences, you can definitely say to yourself, you know what, this is definitely a girl that I want to be with.
Yeah. Again, it's like just tuning in, and like listening to your own emotions and your own instincts and not just doing what you said and settling. Like, oh, I am now in my 40s and I spent all this time on my career and now I need a wife. It's time for me to get a wife, and it's like
Right.
I've been on dates with guys like that and I'm just like, whoa, slow down,
Mm-hmm.
I am not going to fill a hole in your life.
Right.
Like, it has to be an equal balance. We both have to want this. So,
Yeah. And you got to be, I mean, we can't always be, 100% satisfied with our own lives, but if it's always best to enter a relationship, or I should say it's best to enter a healthy relationship when you feel, good about what's going on in your life. You're mentally healthy, you're not depressed.
and you're okay being alone.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're okay being alone, and it's not, you're not seeking out of desperation,
Mm-hmm.
and you're happy with your career and your passions and the things you're doing. As long as you feel, good on multiple levels and in this healthy way, then that's a really good time to really get into a relationship. That's the best time. Of course, that doesn't always happen like that, but that's also what causes a lot of breakups.
Yeah, no, amazing advice. So, you guys, please check out Trip's website, tripadvice.com, and his YouTube channel. He really does teach his clients how to become more well rounded people rather than someone that they're not. So, Trip, it's been awesome chatting with you these past 6 weeks.
Absolutely. It's such a pleasure. So excited to continue this journey and help out more guys, and excited to share all this great information. So thank you so much for having me.